Max Fury Road is a 2015 film from George Miller, a man with a film career so eclectic, chances are there's at least one film you won't believe he directed. Just to run down the list, Lorenzo's Oil, Part 4 of Twilight Zone the movie, The Witches of Eastwick, Babe, Pig in the City, yeah, just the second one, Happy Feet, and not content with just one spin around that carousel, Happy Feet 2. What's kind of interesting about the list is that moment you realize how good everything he's ever directed actually is. I mean, he turned a movie about a pig winning a contest to a sequel full of commentary on an ever-disappearing American middle class. Or what about Happy Feet being a film that teaches kids that racism makes penguins sad and critical thought is imperative to surviving in a world where religion exists? Yeah, it's a penguin film about atheism and it's baby bot choice. But Mikey, what more is there to be said about Mad Max? Surely the never-ending carnival of think pieces have said everything there is to be said about the film. Surely all thoughts about the film's thematic stances on female objectification, slavery, religious idolatry, and indoctrination, post-traumatic stress disorder, and Tom Hardy's pursed, scowling maw have been exhausted. His dreamy, vulnerable, not here to talk, just here to listen, scowling maw. Well, for starters, here's the thing that nobody ever noticed before. But if you like causing trouble up in hotel... Come on, you knew that was coming back. For the people that didn't get it, the irony of using a boy band song ostensibly about manufactured ideals of masculinity juxtaposed against the story of numerous men being emasculated by their own ideals of their male-centric worldview. Also, the murder. Oh, maybe I wasn't just playing a stupid song just to do it. Keep up. I'll move fast. But really, what more is there to say about this film that hasn't been said before? Let's find out. Surely everyone has heard this film called a visual story or something to that effect before. There's certainly a lot of truth to it. Originally conceived as a visual script composed entirely of storyboards and very minimal dialogue, this film is the very definition of visual spectacle. I'm sure in some form or another you've heard about Miller's use of center frame to ensure that fast edits can be employed without the audience losing track of the action because their eyes aren't darting all over the screen and getting tired. Think of it like the craziest Wes Anderson movie of all time. Country road, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia, Mountain Mama. Everything happens in the center so that Miller has carte blanche to do whatever the hell he wants without the audience getting confused or growing irritable like your bowels after you went back for thirds on those ice-cold Rico's cheese nachos you keep throwing under your seat at the theater. Yes, I noticed. Got him. Watch your back, Rico's. What's most fascinating about this film, at least to me, is how impossible it is that it even exists. The last Mad Max film, Beyond Thunderdome, came out in 1985, meaning that 30 years have passed between sequels. And what's markedly cooler about this fact is the movie goes out of its way like it was still made in the 80s. This is somewhat betrayed by the fact it gives us a mix of traditional and CG effects that basically blend together to create an absolutely butt-shit insane number of the greatest shots of all time. TM. This movie is so 80s, it's actually ridiculous. Look at this. Look at the cars, the makes, the models, mostly 60s and 70s, which were the exact same kind of cars that were used in the series the first time around. There's no car made after 1980. Then there's the sped up footage effect that Miller's using, and I'm pretty sure he did this on purpose, where it does harken back to the 80s where we'd speed up film to make actions look like they were happening quicker, but here it feels wholly stylistic, just part of this insane world that he's creating. And of course, Immortan Joe looks like he walked out of a Roger Corman film about mutant demon people that live in the sewer called Tunnel Bangers. I watch it. And what's crazy is practically every group of people in the film have a reason to be fatalistic. Like the War Boys believe that their death will grant them a second life in Valhalla. So every time they're on screen, they're pretty much doing whatever crazy thing they can do to die. And I don't think this is an accident. I think Miller needed a reason for them to be going to 11 in every single scene because no one's really afraid of dying because that's ultimately what they want. And obviously that is a commentary on the fact that the world sucks and they have to wash their face in boob milk. Also, there's this guy and monster trucks, and the title treatment is like somebody with an album cover idea for Poison, and then the band was like, Yo, that's too far, though. As a film short on dialogue and even plot, I continue to find new depths to which this movie goes to structure anything. Like the death of Splendid, which basically ensures that they don't fail their whole mission, and this death almost doesn't even happen. Only when Splendid cannot load the gun and it is taken away, which makes her feel like she doesn't contribute to the group, which I may add is accomplished only by the look on her face. She's staring out the window to collect herself, sees that Joe is about to shoot Furiosa. She jumps in front of the bullet knowing Joe won't shoot. A moment later, as she dodges the rock, she still falls off the door and goes under the wheels. But because Joe has a feeling for once, he kills at least one person, destroys his car, and greatly injures himself, all to try and save a person they all know is dead. And that's really the only reason they escape, because it's the one thing they could actually stop Joe with the tools that they had. If anything in that entire sequence had changed, it's reasonable to believe that none of them would be alive, which is a high-wire act of a waiting instructor film, which couples with the pacing straight out of a NASCAR race makes Fury Road a singular experience, unlike anything else released in ever. Think of the pacing this way. The film basically starts in the second act. There's no reluctant hero, there's no call to action, there's no real setup of any kind. Max is just pissing on a cliff, eating a lizard, like you do, and then it's like back to, I guess. Same with Furiosa. There's no scene where the movie has to sell us that the wives are mistreated by Joe. Thank God. Her decision to risk life and limb to help their escape has already been made when we meet her. We see her eyes and it's like, yeah, that's enough act one for me, let's do it! And its lifeblood may be that of an 80s movie, but its execution is as modern as anything made recently. Think of Fury Road like it's the greatest Michael Bay movie ever made. And it's not a stretch, it's pretty much entirely action. Its color palette and contrast somehow managed to push beyond even Transformers, teal and orange, teal and orange, teal and orange. And Max is, by virtue of his capture, a blood bag, to quote the War Boys. But he's also a scavenger, knowing what kinds of things he's not likely to come across, all that often. So he fastens his blood tube to his shirt, which comes in handy to save Furiosa's life later, because when you know it, they also set him up as a universal donor because he can use his blood in her. Pay attention to everything. Every little detail in this movie gets reincorporated in some way or another. Here's a few other things I really liked. There's this thing the movie does where it kind of brings you in after the fact. Like, we never see Max really lose his shoe in the first fight, but we know he lost it. And then we see that he has stolen Nux's shoe after another fight, and later Max murders a gaggle of people off screen, mostly to return with the shoe for Nux, so now they both have shoes again, because he cared about his buddy's toes getting cold. That is an entire B-plot with a beginning, middle, and end, and conflict, and twists and turns, all told to us without anyone ever uttering a single word about it, and the whole thing is done visually. And then there's the scene where Max plays Find the Gun with Furiosa, which is a very clever device to set up every single gun and how many bullets are in each of those weapons, used over the entire film. And there's the moment where Furiosa decides she needs to trust Max, which is the moment she asks for his name.
What's your name? What do I call you?
Only at the end of their journey does he give it to her, because at this point, now that she's gonna die, he finally trusts her.
Max. My name is Max.
He has some trust issues, okay, guys? Gosh. But maybe this is all pretty beside the point. Maybe it's about systematically breaking something down to gaze in stunned awe at the breathtaking craftsmanship on display in so many areas. But maybe this is just a film chiefly about one thing. Sure, it's definitely about 5 women fighting the patriarchy that has enslaved them, aided in their journey by Max, a 6th team member, who despite being the title character, is not the person in charge. Because it isn't about who's giving the orders, it's about how far you're willing to go to fight injustice. Hey, that has cultural ramifications now. Huh. He never says this is what we're going to do. He offers ideas and allows Furiosa to make the calls because this is her fight, not his. But it goes deeper than that because it also exposes the people screaming the values of their patriarchy under the pretenses of false gods and actually entirely are full of shit. And that's what the movie's about. So the irony of a boycott claiming that a movie where Max haphazardly runs into a group of women and just goes along for the ride somehow isn't a real Mad Max movie is nothing more than proof that the very people boycotting the film haven't seen this film, but they've never actually seen a Mad Max movie, or even worse, they fundamentally didn't understand that is exactly what happens in a Mad Max movie. Because in a lot of ways, Max has more agency in this film than he has ever had before. Hell, this is the first film he actually got to do his own voiceover. Or did you forget it was Feral Kid that did it in The Road Warrior? Max is a tragic figure. He lost a wife and a child to the violence that has permeated his entire life. So the entire birth of his character was about fighting injustice in a world that has no reason not to be cruel because it is no longer propped up on the amenities of civilized society. Since his beginning, Max has been about trying to prevent the very thing that created him from happening to anyone else. I mean, Jesus Christ. It isn't about which one of them fights better or who contributes the most. It's about why working together and understanding are the only things allowing us to retain our humanity in the apocalypse, which we are almost surely heading toward. The very criticisms against this film are a fundamental misunderstanding about what any of George Miller's films are actually about. It's almost comical at this point that the bad guy in this film is a repugnant liar toting the virtues of subjugating females into archaic gender roles and sending the war boys after anyone that doesn't agree. That's a little on the f***ing nose! And surely we are all capable of at least some self-awareness. And it's perfectly rational to find that message preachy, especially if you find yourself in opposition to it. But if you are a male, I would ask that you attempt to reason out what this film actually is and what it means for yourself not to be lured by the propaganda of others. Just check it out and think about how you feel about it. Just be like Nux. He questioned his role in all of this and realized he was helping to prop up a wholly corrupt system. That a character named Capable proved to Nux with finality that women are in fact capable, a fact he was earnestly not aware of, shows you how far this movie is willing to go to break things down into easily digestible pieces. Unless, that is, you simply refuse to eat it because symbolism is gross and I don't like movies that make me feel things and question my own belief system. Then, my friend, I'm afraid you don't like movies because the second we don't allow our art to challenge us and our beliefs is the moment we cease to be human. This is important to me because it was important to George, and here's the period at the end of the sentence. Unlike practically every film ever made, instead of putting this at the front, Miller chose to put his quote at the end, punctuating all that came before it. Where must we go? We who wander the wasteland in search of our better selves. Which better selves do you think to which he is referring? And to punctuate this punctuation, the quote is in black and white because there are two very clear sides in this argument, a right one and a wrong one. Because the dark side of the argument is Immortan Joe, an inhuman ghost man with an octopus face. So maybe that one thing that this film is about is being a good ally. Because sometimes it isn't our fight. And sometimes we need to give too much of ourselves for no other reason than to stand up with those that need us to. And that's way harder when you know it's a losing fight you're going into, because you're hanging by a thread and people are stabbing you in the back and you can't keep everything together. And yet you fight. You fight because there's a better world on the other side of it. And that is black and white. Hey everybody, that's another one done. I'm in the 20s now, I think, for a number of episodes, so really starting to cook. I had a lot of fun doing this episode. Obviously, I had a lot to say. Before you go posting in the comments about how much I missed or quoting things you saw in other articles, just remember that this was just my take on what I thought were fresh ideas about the film, mostly because all of you guys were like, there's nothing new to say. Well, what's up? I'm just playing. While not strictly a vote, I will let you guys pick which one comes up next between Star Wars and Ex Machina. So go ahead and leave a vote in the comments, and I will see you guys. Oh, but like the video and subscribe to the channel and all that stuff I'm supposed to tell you to do, but I never remember. Do it, because the forceful tone will ensure subscriptions. That's what my mom said about my paper I had when I was a kid. And I had like 7. I'll see you guys next time.